Hello, my friends. Nikki here, and I'm really excited to dive in with you guys on why our bodies aren't responding and how to fix it. So, a lot of times it's incredibly frustrating when we have a goal and we're working out really hard and we're eating pretty healthy and we haven't changed anything, but our bodies are changing. And you can see the differences. You know what is normal to you, and it feels sometimes like you want to throw in the towel, but I'm telling you, don't throw in the towel. That there's lots of different ways that we can look at not fixing because you're not broken, but just helping you become a little more balanced. There's nothing wrong with us as we go through different stages, and sometimes different stages we gain weight, sometimes we lose weight, sometimes we gain muscle, sometimes we lose muscle. So we're all over the place. And we're constantly in a state of find our body wants to find balance. And I always think about it like there's no such thing as real balance. We're always going from one side to the other, just a little bit here and there. But the better we can get at understanding how we feel better in our own skin and what we want, and then understanding our habits and our thoughts, and that those play a role in what manifests in our body as well. And then from there, just breaking it down and making a plan. So tonight, that's what I'm hoping to do is I'm going to go through quite a few different ideas. Some of the ideas works for everybody, and some of them are age related. So some of them will be different because we're at different ages and stages in our life. But first thing, I hope that you can take a second and grab a pen and a piece of paper or your journal. And I just want us to journal a couple things on what you want and why you're here. Like, why did that topic, like why your body isn't responding and how to fix it, why or how did that like resonate with you? And if there was something that we could wave a magic wand and whatever, like create stronger muscles or whatever that is, just take a second and think about what you want in your body. So as you're writing, just thinking about how you feel. So not just this very second, but how you feel at this stage. Day to day, we always feel a little bit different, but how do you feel? How's your energy? As we take a big breath, like breathe in through your nose, big open mouth exhale, and just notice if you can release tension, and then maybe ask yourself the question, how is my tension day to day? How's my stress? And then with kind of a peace and a calm, what do you want? Do you want more energy? Do you want to lose fat? Do you want to gain strength, confidence? So as you continue to write, hopefully you'll continue this after the half an hour that we have together. But what I know for sure, and I know you guys probably hear me talk about this all the time, is that our mind is incredibly powerful. And so if we can start bringing awareness, so habits are really powerful, our mind is really powerful, and sometimes our awareness is not so powerful. So self-awareness is a harder skill, to really think about, like, what are our daily habits and daily thoughts that are driving the actions that are creating and manifesting in our body, because our body is a snapshot of where we are in life. Whether you've had a lot of stress in your life, or whether you've had kids, or um, whether your eating habits, and all this is, our body is a manifestation of lots of different things that happen in our lives. And as women, we're very, very complicated, and we're miracles. Like, it's absolutely a miracle that whether we decide to have kids or not, that we can. And that our hormonal, like, orchestra through our life is nothing short of miraculous, but also very difficult. And a lot of times we talk now about menopause, postmenopause, perimenopause, but quite honestly, our hormones have probably caused us a little bit of strife our whole life, thinking about like our periods and the emotional changes that go on, thinking about again like whether you have kids or not, but just those swings of incredible highs and lows of hormones has a lot to do with how we're feeling now. So when we think about like what we want in life, it's really important to be super specific on what you want. And so sometimes we can be hard on ourselves as women. So I want us to be careful with that too, to let go of the idea of perfection because our body is perfect. It's carrying us around. We're blinking, we're talking, we're working out, hopefully, we're, all of these things. There always can be like little things that we can make stronger, that we can make more mobile. But also being careful that we're not too hard on ourselves with body perfection. And I know as women, sometimes we can do that. So I hope this talk doesn't encourage that. But what I want to do is really work on breaking things down. So once you write down like what you want, so I want more confidence, I want a strong body, I want this, whatever that is. Then now let's just quickly look at the problem or what you categorize as like the issue or what is like the thing that you can't get to budge no matter what you do. You're eating the same and you're eating pretty healthy. You've always done this. You're working out like crazy, but this one thing is driving me crazy. So just write that at the top of your journal. And then what I want us to do through this talk is break that down. So very often we think of things like I want to lose weight, and that's just too big. I want to, so if it's, so say if my goal was I want to lose weight, and then if I want to break that down, I want to think about 5 ways that I can possibly change or move habits a little bit to make that happen. So we would think about rest and recovery. We would think about lifting heavy, working out. We would think about our stress levels and being outside, sleep. And all of this is going to be different because sometimes at different stages in our life, you could be really good at sleep. So maybe you don't need to have that as one of the issues that we're breaking down. My Zoom always gives like all these like crazy fun emojis. But when you're thinking about breaking things down, think about not the things that you already do really good because we want to hit that on repeat. We want to keep those goals. We want to keep those habits the same and go repeat, repeat, repeat. But the things that are a little bit off as we go through this talk, that's what we want to break down. And we want to create a plan around that. So we have seasons in our life, as you know, and like when we're 20, when we're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. And so all these seasons of our life were different, but they have a common thread that goes through each decade, year of our life. And so as that common thread, our bodies change, our hormones change. We're different people when we're 50 than when we're 20, but we think that that we should be able to do the same thing and get the same response in our actions, and it just doesn't happen. We have to think about ourselves as new because the way we metabolize food changes, our energy level changes, our muscle mass changes, our microbiome. So many things change inside us. So what we want to do is we want to create habits that are not like stuck and like, so even healthy habits. So we could say, my whole life I've got up first thing in the morning and I've had a thing of lemon water this big and it's always been great. But maybe as we get older, it doesn't feel good to drink that much and waterboard ourselves in the morning. So we need to change. So even healthy habits. So we want to create habits, but we want them to be soft. We want them to be flexible in the way of changing with our, and also not even just age, but with stress related issues in our life. So I can like, if like intermittent fasting for just taking just like intermittent fasting, I can do intermittent fasting most of the time. I stop eating by 5:30. I eat after my workout, usually like 9:30. That's pretty easy for me. But when my life gets really stressful and I feel like I have like excess cortisol and I'm not doing as well as normal, I have a lower tolerance to intermittent fasting because sometimes intermittent fasting increases your cortisol levels. So that's a way of looking at, we want to create habits, but we want soft habits. So then as we change, even in just regular day-to-day life, we get in a fight with our significant other. It doesn't feel good to be starving. It doesn't feel good to also like overeat, but it's being flexible in what we do on a day to day and week to week. So, a big reason why we're not responding is adaptation. And so, I know everybody has heard like of hitting a plateau. And when you do Kaya, we do different exercises, different workouts every day. We keep your body guessing so you don't hit a plateau. But that being said, it is our responsibility as individual athletes to progressively overload as much as we can. So if we're always used to going into bar class and picking threes and doing threes, we should sometimes pick fours and sometimes pick ones. And so making sure that we are progressively overloading and then resting appropriately. Um, so when you think about like adaptation, is you want to get to almost failure through your exercises. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into strength training. But the biggest bang for your hormone buck, for your metabolism, for your muscle mass is focus on your big muscles. So focus on your glutes, on your butt, and on your upper back. So your legs and your back, if you can think about gaining as much lean muscle as possible. And that's why I think it's really important to have an in-body done so we can see where your muscle is. We're preserving muscle and then we're losing fat if need be. And then when we look at our weight and we have different weight goals, because you can be whatever you want. Like there's no right or wrong. If you want something, I'll help you get it. And then you can decide, from there if you want to change your goals. But when you're thinking about adaptation, is increasing the weight to gain lean muscle, because I know that everybody talks about this right now, but it is so true that muscle is your weapon. It helps you with your hormones, it helps you with your metabolism, it helps keep your bones strong so your muscles squeeze your bones. And the heavier that we lift, now that being said, I don't lift super heavy. Like I only lift what we lift at Kaya. So I do like kettlebells, dumbbells. Sometimes I do barbells. I do my own body weight. So I work on pull ups, I work on push ups, I work on deep squats and mobility. It doesn't have to be super heavy, but it does need to get you to where you're like, I can't do one more. And that's getting to almost failure. Another reason why we get stuck and our body is not responding is because hormones. And depending, not sure, and I can dive into this if you're interested, but HRT. So when you're thinking about taking hormones, so estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, that can be helpful. Also, when you're thinking about your hormones and you're thinking like, okay, I'm in wherever. I'm in my 30s, my hormones are starting to fluctuate, 40s, 50s, 60s. So when we think about our hormones, we shift from using our ovaries in our 30s and 40s. And as we go into perimenopause and menopause, we shift into our adrenals. And so sometimes we're not losing weight or we're gaining weight. A lot of times through perimenopause, our weight goes from our butt, where it's pretty safe, and it goes up to our abdominal area, which is not as safe. And so when you think about your hormones and how your weight is shifting, there is reasons why. And a lot of times it can have to do with stress. So when we're thinking, for me, I'm always like, I'm not stressed. Like, I'm never stressed. I'm always happy. But then if you see me half the day, I'm like, ga, 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 deadlines, deadlines. I've got a 1 o'clock. I'm running from thing to thing. And then my oral ring is like, oh my gosh, you were so stressed today. And I was like, was I? And because it's hard to have self awareness when these are habits that I've just created my whole entire life. And so when you're thinking about, and I'm talking through these things, maybe something resonates with you. So maybe one of those levers that we can pull is stress. Maybe one of it is like hormones and diving into getting your labs and seeing how your hormones are doing, making sure that you have enough vitamin D, vitamin B, that you have all the micronutrients that you need. Labs are really, really helpful to look for reasons why we're stuck. And then blood sugar. So gut health is really important focus. All of our whole entire life, I gave my son was born with gastroschisis, so he's born with all his guts on the outside. So I started him on pre and probiotics when he was 3 pounds, and so it's gut health is not just a perimenopause and a menopause issue, but it does change significantly as our hormones shift and we start producing less of the microbiome that breaks down our food. And so we tend to gain a little more weight in our stomach because we're not having enough fiber or enough the healthy like fermented foods to break it down and to help with that visceral fat. So visceral fat and gut health are tied together. Anytime you feel like, I'm always bloated, I can't lose weight around my waist, I have poor digestion, I feel like I have like inflammation, I'm tired, a lot of that can be pointed and towards gut health. And when we have a hard time losing weight, a lot of times we're not absorbing the protein and the fiber that we're eating because we're not able to break it down properly. And then it's just storing instead of using it for fuel. So, a few things with gut health that I think are important is walking after every meal, at movement. So maybe it is like doing 30 squats. So sometimes I can't walk after a meal, but I'll go and sometimes if I'm like tired and I've already worked out, I'll just like hold on to like my kitchen sink and do 30, go up to my toes, do 30 squats after my meal. So anything counts, but just making sure that after your meals that you are moving. Timing of food is really important when it comes to weight loss. When it comes to, wonder how many thumbs up I'm going to give in this. I realize with my Zoom emojis how often I put my thumb up. So timing is important. Hydration is important when the weather is cold. Sometimes we're not drinking enough water, or sometimes we're not drinking water that is as available to us. So maybe there's toxins in it like chlorine and different like plastics. If you're drinking out of like a plastic water bottle, that's really hard on our hormones because that's phytoestrogens and that really messes with our hormones. So thinking about clean water, fermented food, walking after you eat, the timing. So I talked a little bit about intermittent fasting, but stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed, go for a little walk after your last dinner. When you get up in the morning, before you go to caffeine, give yourself time to hydrate, to floss and brush your teeth, to have like time without a stimulant because that can really raise our cortisol levels, which raises our blood sugar levels. I don't want to stress you out because I've got so many things here and I feel like I throw a lot at you. But what I'm hoping is that you can pull a couple things out that resonate with you and just try to create habits around it. Just see if you can change or or add a few great things in, like 35 to 45 grams of fiber, legumes and beans, enough water, all of that to have better gut health. I do take a pre and probiotic, and I do take digestive enzymes. So, digestive enzymes before I eat, a pre and probiotic first thing in the morning. That has really helped me with my gut health. So, kind of going back to like what's happening, adaptation. So, sometimes we're just not pushing as hard as we need to and increasing our weight and building that muscle. Sometimes it's hormones, getting our hormones tested, or thinking about how we can regulate our hormones through less stress, through rest and digest, through more sleep. Our blood sugar levels is thinking about that visceral fat is when we eat something that's really high in carbohydrates, make sure before you eat your carbohydrates that you eat healthy fiber, healthy protein, and then when you get in, then you have like the carbohydrates, it doesn't shoot your blood sugar up so much. Go for that walk again. And sometimes our body's not changing because we're not eating enough. And so we're slowing our metabolism. And then sometimes it's because you are overfueling. So we're eating too much. And a lot of times with women, it's a mix. So we won't eat a lot. And most of the time, we'll do like intermittent fasting, we'll be really good, but then we'll have like binging late night or weekends of just kind of going off the rails a bit. And we don't realize how much that sabotages our results. And so consistency is better. So if we're under fueling and then over fueling, it messes with our metabolism and our body doesn't know how to digest no food and then excessive food. And so it just stores. So when we think about as much as possible, I know it's hard, is just being as consistent as we can. And again, creating those habits around our food choices, creating the habits around our like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then adding variety, adding lots of different colors and lots of different fiber, but trying to stick to the same timing of our meals if possible, less snacking. So let yourself get hungry. It's really good to be hungry kind of when you go to bed, hungry-ish, and hungry when we wake up and then ready for a day and breakfast. Okay, so when we think that we're broken, we're absolutely not. Your body is just trying to protect you. So all the things that your body does is trying to protect you from all the things that are thrown at it your whole life. And often we forget, like my daughter just had a baby like 18 months ago, and she's hard on herself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like your body went through miraculous changes. And you think in 18 months, in 5 years, that things should just go back to the way they were, that we do have to really think about changing with our times and giving ourselves the love that we need. So, with age related, usually in our 30s, we have like high stress, we're inconsistent. If you choose to have kids, you're usually up late at night or your career is crazy. We're just a little all over the place. So, what that can tend to do in your 30s is tax your adrenals. So, then when we go into our 40s and we start going into this perimenopause, that if we are going into this stage where our hormones start to drop and we start relying on our adrenals, but we have been stressed our whole life, then that can cause that visceral fat, that can cause the increase weight gain. And how to fight that in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100 is really focus on your muscle. So focus as much as possible on having as much muscle as possible. And then with your food is always think about how much fiber that you can get and protein. So if you just keep your mind on the fiber, protein, and water, then you'll be able to help with these like fluctuations of weight gain. So in our 50s, if we don't have a lot of muscle, if we come into our 50s stressed and maybe not as healthy as we could be, then we have a really probably tougher time with perimenopause and menopause, and maybe we see our metabolism slowing. And then where the what the most important thing is to remember is every day is a new day. And you can absolutely start right now with just very simple habits that make an incredible difference. But as we age, recovery and sleep does really matter. And I know I don't give myself enough of it. But when, like, for me, recovery is going for a gentle walk after work. For me, recovery is drinking my tea outside if it's warm. Um, because I can tend to think recovery for me is watching Netflix, because I do love to like sit down at night at the end of the night and watch TV. But most of the time it's like high energy and it's actually not recovery. So when we think about like recovery, think strategically, how can you actually recover? Because we should be working out. I know we only have a couple more minutes, but we should be strength training hard and we should need those rest periods. When we think about the strength training, again, is lifting as heavy as possible. So when you are doing squats, put like a kettlebell or dumbbells on your shoulders. And you can even do like supported squats. So like sitting down and then standing up. But so you're going just a little bit deeper, but feel a little bit more supported. Also with like deadlifts, if like, say, if you have any low back pain in deadlifts, you can lay on your back and put the really heavy weight on your hips and do hip raises. So you can still lift heavy weights without compromising or, you know, without compromising pain. Um, but even if you do have like a little bit of uncomfortability, if it's not a sharp pain, you can still work hard kind of in, and I want to be careful like saying that because I don't know your injuries, or I don't know you individually. I actually do know you guys, but so strength training increases your metabolism, increases your energy. So let's just ask ourselves, can we get to failure more often? And can we add a little more umph? So I always say it to myself and to all my girls that I'm coaching: stability first, challenge second. So I ask my body first, am I stable? Are my shoulders in her protective pockets? Is my core braced? Am I grounded in my feet? And then when I feel stable, I lift heavy and I get myself to all the way till I almost lose form or I cannot do one more. Um, we talked about gut health. So just, remembering our strategies for how to get yourself out of plateaus are going to be strength training heavy food. So track your fiber, track your protein, intermittent fasting, track your water, gut health, really focusing on that if that's something that you think would be helpful to you, and then rest and sleep. And then, so just real quick, just as we finish up, is just kind of doing a self check. So, thinking about what are some of the things that you can implement tonight. Maybe if it's sleep, turning out the blue lights earlier, checking out your bedroom, making sure that there's no lights. Maybe you have the sleep ibibs, that there's no noises, that you're able to have like a really cool space. So things that we can do tonight to help us fix any of these like little issues. And then let's just do 7 days together, so we can write down that whatever that was that called you to this workshop, is that reminding ourselves that we're not broken, that we just need to rebalance. And then what are 5 things, or maybe 1 or 2 things, that you can do for the next 7 days to really help reset your sense of balance. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being on. I am going to stop recording. So if you have any questions, or if you want to chat about anything, I'm here to be helpful. I appreciate your guys' time. And this is the most important thing that we can do, is talk about how to be as healthy as we possibly can through our whole entire life, because it's all we have. It's the only thing that really matters, is that if you can really take care of yourself, we can take care of other people. That if, the healthier and the stronger we are mentally, spiritually, emotionally. Hey, thank you, Jamie. That the more that we are able to live a truly incredible, blessed life, and help other people. So I appreciate your time and thanks for being here.